So types of shelters, we're just going to go through some basics. The first one is the official shelter. It's the whole Red Cross comes in and sets up a shelter run by the city or some kind of officials. And best case scenario, and this is from the mouth of city employees, city officials, the best case scenario is 4 to 7 days for the first one in the city of Seattle. There are a lot of hoops they have to jump through in order to open up a shelter. They need to ensure the building is safe for occupancy. They need to get food lined up, toileting facilities lined up, showers lined up. What are we going to do with pets? Is this for families? Is this for single people? Lots of issues. So best case scenario, 4 days for the very first one in the city of Seattle. So obviously everything else will be after that. So that's the official sheltering policy. And then there's the kind of person that just says, my home is standing, my apartment is okay, I've got room for another family or another couple people, come on in. The hubs can obviously help with that, those little ones and twos to help match neighbors to support one another. There is some debate about where to put that information once your hub is up and running. Do you put it on the information board or do you put it in the resources, the supply area? So there's not a definite answer, but I've seen that question a lot. The third type of sheltering situation is what we call spontaneous, and it would be a church, a small business, even an open field in your area, in your neighborhood that says, yeah, we can support people here. Hubs can definitely help with that kind of stuff. And what I want to show you next or talk about next is the paperwork that's in your hub boxes to help with that process. So shelter paperwork, and the reason we're even asking about this was someone we talked to recently wasn't sure where the paperwork was, and we realized other people didn't even realize it existed. So it just seemed like a smart thing to review. So shelter paperwork, it is meant for an indoor shelter. The idea of doing an outdoor shelter, a spontaneous shelter outside would be a project we have to work on with the Parks Department. They are not currently, they don't have the bandwidth to help us work through that, but we've sort of looked at Burning Man, those big outdoor tent cities kind of thing, and how are they set up and what problems have they already resolved, because they do this year after year and they set up in the middle of nowhere with no facilities. So we've Cindy and I have talked to a couple of people, and maybe some other HubCaps were there too. I don't know. It's been a while. Talked to some other folks about, how do we recreate that here? If people are going to set up tents in a park because they're afraid to be in a building or their building is not safe for occupancy, how can we help them set up smartly in the beginning so that there's enough space, emergency workers can get in there if they need to. Toileting is done at one end of the settlement and food is prepared at the other end, and those two aren't mixed, all that kind of stuff. So that's a project hopefully for down the road in conjunction with parks. So the
And
paperwork, yeah.
just a really quick comment. If you need a connection with anybody, I actually am friends with the person who runs logistics and HR and everything for Burning Man.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, we may take you up on it. Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks. So what you have in your hub manual is a 4-page document. There's 2 copies. There's one in the hub manual and there's one in the volunteer coordinator manual. And we did that on purpose because in my head, it's the volunteer coordinator that may send somebody out on a run and utilize this paperwork. So definitely wanted to put it in the volunteer coordinator manual, but also in the hub manual, the hub manager. I'm sorry, I should have wrote hub manager manual, just to make them aware that this exists. So you're going to, if you're the volunteer coordinator and you've got a runner and you want to send them out to, let's say, a nearby church, and you want to find out that, maybe they'll shelter people, or maybe they reached out to you and said, hey, we'd like to be a shelter, but we have no idea how we're doing it. Send the paperwork, all 4 pages with a hub volunteer to the church and start working on the details. So one of the things to think about is making several copies of this paperwork now. Like I said, there's a copy in the Hub Manager Manual and one in the Volunteer Coordinator, but most of us have not made copies of that, including myself. So the 4 pages, the first one is an assessment. And it's just that the first page is the one and only page that we would anticipate Hub volunteers bringing back to the Hub for posting. It's got where is the shelter, who's in charge, is it accessible to folks in wheelchairs or with ambulatory issues? Do they have toileting set up? And if so, what does that look like? Do they have, food? Is it hot food? Is it cold food? Do they have cots? Are you sleeping on the floor? Should you bring a sleeping bag? What are they doing with pets? All those kinds of information. That's on that first sheet, which is just called the assessment. So you ask the shelter manager to fill it out and then bring that information back to the Hub for posting. Number 2 is a checklist, and it's really guidance for the person running the shelter. Think about this, think about this, think about all these things before you open your doors. Who are you there to serve? How much space do you have? How many people can you accommodate? Do you want families? Do you want single people? What are you going to do with pets? All those questions. So it's a checklist for things for them to think about. The 3rd page is a checklist of what they might want to do every single shift. So it's not the same person that's there all the time and in charge, but as you change shift, walk around, look for safety hazards, look for fire hazards. Are the aisleways clear? Do people with access and functional needs, are they getting what they need? Do you have dogs running amok? Whatever, things to look at. And then the last one is, again, a suggestion for the shelter, not the Hub issue, but a suggestion for them of information they might want to take down about the folks staying in their shelter. Are you part of a family? Give me your name. I can't remember what all's on there, but it's just trying to keep things organized of who's staying with us. So moving forward, now that you know maybe a little bit more about this paperwork, talk about it with your Hub team. Just make sure everybody's aware of it. I know we rolled out the Hub manuals, the job descriptions and all that, and we didn't really go through it page by page. We're hoping that you've had the time or will take the time to make sure that everybody that needs to know what's in there knows what's in there. So talk about it with your Hub team, show it to your community. And the reason for that, frankly, is just to show them how freaking organized we are. I don't know. I wasn't around. I didn't put the paperwork together, but it's brilliant. I'm assuming it just got copied from somebody. Cindy, you got your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, back on the other one. So two-part then. Back on the back slide, which you don't have to go back to, well, but that's okay. This registration form, this sheltering thing was put together by a team of Hub captains way early.
Yay.
And Jill Watson with the city vetted it. And Dave Nichols, who also does extensive sheltering, vetted it. And the registration form is there because it will help facilitate the city when it's time to go, great, the Red Cross finally set up a shelter in your neck of the woods, being able to pick up those people and have their information available for the city to know, hey, we got 12 kids coming, or we've got 5 people with ADA requirements, so that they can more quickly properly staff and get food and supplies sent in. So that's the point of the registration form, is to get a jump start on being organized for the city. Not our responsibility, but we can at least tell them it will help everybody. And so that also answers the question about how this came about. It was a team of people, and the city helped participate. In fact, those of you who are really interested, there's a deep dive somewhere back in history on the YouTube channel of the meeting, one of the meetings with Jill.
Excellent. That was before my time. So again, I think we ought to crow about it to the community, because I think it's genius. It's looking ahead. It's very smart. I think it speaks very, very highly of the Hub network and the great work they've done. Something to think about is identifying potential shelters. You can do that now. You can reach out to community organizations, churches, whatever, small businesses, and go, hey, if we needed to, would you be willing to be a shelter? And if so, let me give you this packet of information of things to think about now. How might you handle this? where could you allow families with dogs here? And if so, where would you put the dogs? All that kind of stuff. So it's a way to work with this paperwork now, just to get a jump start on if we ever need to set up these spontaneous shelters. And then one of the things I started with my hub, which I really appreciate, is 3x5 cards. And I have written on there important places in my community and the little bit I know about them. We have a memory care center very close. I know that their issues are trash and just-in-time supply delivery and morphine. And they have regular deaths because there are old people there to begin with, having nothing to do with any kind of disaster. So I already know those are their issues. So it's on my little card, and a volunteer coordinator can easily hand that to a hub volunteer, a runner, and go read through this, go over to the memory care center and find out how they're doing. Come back, ask some good questions and find out how they're doing. So you could do the same kind of thing with a list of potential shelters. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, there's a question in chat from Pat. Would they need to be looked at first by a structural engineer? That's actually one of the key things about talking to them. Many organizations, maybe not your little small churches, but many large buildings already might have a architect on retainer to come do damage assessment right after a disaster. So that's part of what you get to talk about, is like, are you going to be a good shelter, or you're going to be a shelter? We're going to have to go find an architect who's been trained in this to look at it and, help us determine if it's safe to go in. And the city recognizes that's a problem for us too. So we, one of these days, we will have back with us the structural engineers, people who are doing the program of volunteer architects post-disaster building inspection program. Matt's got his hand up.
Well, yeah, that leads me to wonder about, beforehand, if we identify a place and they don't have an architect on a retainer, do we have a pathway to hook them up with that and help them evaluate it? Like, they might want to be a shelter, but they don't know if they can. Is there something we can do for them?
Not right now. We don't have anything that is in place for this. What we want the structural people to do is just like we did with the Reserve Corps. If you have not been called by the city to show up, it's hour 6 and you're not hearing anybody to show up, go to your nearest hub and say, I've got this, and it's called ATC 20 training. And they can evaluate buildings. They're certified to evaluate buildings. And so we can use them at the hubs if they show up. Did that answer both of your questions?
Yeah, for me, that's helpful. And that information, the specific training, we have that documented out to the hubs already, or is that kind of new?
It can't.
We aren't the
like
target
what we're
audience.
specifically looking for, I guess, is the question. If somebody comes up, to somebody who has never heard of that, would they be able to convey, what that qualification means?
No. It's formal training. You have to have credentials as an architect or a structural engineer or something else. Right. So if you were to say to someone, do you have ATC 20 training? And they go, what? You go, nope, not you.
Right. Okay.
Not you.
Right. But most people wouldn't know to even ask that.
Correct. Yeah. It's something that we are trying to work with so that we can have a deep dive on it to teach people, but the program the city just hired their first SDCI emergency manager. That is the person who will put this program in place for Seattle. She's been on the job about 4 months now, and she knows we want to talk to her. And that is when we will be able to have this exact conversation. So
Cindy,
so
just
Matt,
to clarify,
we haven't been able to talk to anybody because we don't have anything other than this general get inspectors. And if they have ATC 20, it hasn't even been worth telling the hub captains because there's no place to put that in your brain, right?
Cindy, if an earthquake happened next week, there is nothing to stop a church or a small business from opening up their doors and sheltering people.
Yes, but Matt's question, both of these questions are what people they'll go is like, is my building safe? and we're going to go, let's get an architect to look at it, right? So you have the two choices. One is an architect who might be trained or might not be trained, but most architects can look at something and go, do not go in that building. Even I can look at a building and go, don't go in that building. But it's very hard to get people who will say, under city official liability questions, it is okay to go in that building. That's what we're looking for, is the firm, yes, go in that building.
Yeah, we don't want to
So-
funnel people somewhere if it's going to put them in
Right.
danger. I get that.
So Anne's thinking, I can see it.
I'm struggling with what I heard, but nobody else seems to be confused. So I'm gonna assume it's my issue. Okay, so oh, sorry, I'm gonna back up. So that's all I had about the sheltering paperwork. Just want to let you know it's there. What the purpose is, more to come on the ATC 20 training and how we might be able to find an architect. Yeah, I just feel like a church is gonna a church is gonna say you can use my building,
Yep, probably, you know.
but they're taking on the liability having people in there. We're
Yeah.
not blessing the building as being safe or not safe.
But if they
Yeah, I
ask the
mean-
question of how will I know if my building is safe, hopefully we'll have an answer for them when we can figure out what the city's doing, right?
Yeah.
But the
Okay.
one question you can ask people right now is, do you have any plans to have someone inspect your building after the earthquake? You know, many people who have big buildings where lots of people come in have people on retainer to do that inspection. That's what a lot of companies get their business from. Sarah?
Oh, I guess I'm live. Okay. I wonder if we couldn't also, as a hub, find out where there are a few architects in the neighborhood and just build a relationship with them and say, hey, if you're still alive,
What
come
we're,
and talk to us because
what we're
we're
really
Yeah.
what we're really hoping is that we can get one of these ATC training sessions where we can put it out to all our hub peoples and go, are you any architects out there? Here, we've sponsored a free training for you to get the certification. That's what we really want to do. And then that helps you with your outreach and building your list or your connection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
so-
getting people trained is key. I don't know that we're going to have a big supply of already certified people that can get around the city and do all of these inspections after the fact.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at how many there actually are. I mean, I've been doing outreach tables and somehow we get on this topic and I'll go, yeah, I'm trained in ATC 20. And usually I go, write your name down and I'm sending your name to the local hub captain. And
Yeah.
so some of you have gotten those emails from me.
So folks you want to groom in your neighborhoods are architects, ham radio operators, and those with commercial driver's licenses so that they can move debris. That's the minimum. And everybody has skills. So that's it for me for sheltering.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Or Anne, sorry. Thanks, Anne.
We're interchangeable.
The next is the structuring best practices. And here we have two: structuring your hub team, that's Louise, and then using GMRS to find out who's activated in your sector, and that's Cindy. So Louise, you're up next.
Are you
Louise, I'm
going
gonna
to
put
show
your
that slide?
yeah, I'm
Ann?
going to put your graphic up in just a second.
Ann just asked if I would explain a little bit how we designed flow through the hub. We had the great good luck to have a graphic artist with us when we first started, and she created this for us. And we use it as our flow chart. And so the first tent would be the Start Here tent. And we have in that tent the greeter and the information manager, and two whiteboards, one for the city and one for the neighborhood, and then maps. And the greeter does the triage and the information manager manages those boards. Then they're directed to the Post Here tent or the Learn Volunteer tent. And we sort of hedged with the radio. So if there's a direct link to the radio, it's to the radio assistant, not to the radio. In the post here tent, we have the resource manager and the message taker. And we've just added, as of our June drill, reunification and medical support. We've never done that before. So they're penciled in. So we put reunification with the post here tent and have that person in charge of missing. And then the message taker and the resource manager handling the needs and haves through the pocket system that's depicted there. If they're sent to the Learn Volunteer tent, we there have the medical support person. So the volunteer coordinator helps with skills and services. And there's the self-help posters, and the education manager helps with those. There's this take care of yourself, lost and found, and message board. And the medical support will also have the in case of death form at that site for them to take care of. And then the radio is fed from all of those, not directly, either from somebody from one of those tents or the hub manager or the radio assistant, and the hub manager's up in the corner. One of the other roles we want to add is runner. It's become apparent that that's a hugely important role, and that it really is the way that connects all the hubs most efficiently and intershares information between the 4 tents. So that's kind of what we've got going on there, just to share.
Any questions?
I think that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah. And kudos to Karen Lewis. She's the hub captain that did these drawings, and the Laurelhurst folks just cropped them off of the brochure and plopped them in here. Thought that was really fun.
Catherine's got her hand up.
Yeah, is there a link?
We'll send it out with the minutes
Yeah, we probably should put it somewhere in there, but
in the hub.
oh my God, it's so hard to find stuff in there as it is.
That's great. No, but seriously, Lee and I were just talking about this 3 days ago.
I didn't know what you said, Anne, about the woman who actually crafted those. I know our graphic artist combined it, but I did not realize that it was from some other document, it sounds like. So
Yeah, the hub brochure.
it should be attributed. I didn't know that. So great.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Sarah.
So Louise, this is really interesting. I'm looking at your Learn Volunteer tent. Very clever. And I'm wondering if you might if you're concerned about the lost and found messages, just too many people sort of all around. Do you have the lost and found messages like spread out somewhere so that they're not tangling up the volunteer coordinators?
They're on a tarp that would be hung on the back of the tent. And that's a great question, because one of the things we addressed is traffic flow and trying to spread out the heavy use between the 3 tents. And that one being a self-help, we thought that would be the appropriate place to be. And it's totally managed by the neighbors visiting. It's not managed by any of the people working as, so to speak, staff.
Huh. Thank you.
Okay, Cindy, I think you're next.
Yep. And we have Darren Linker from Gilman Park Hub and Chris Jarmello from the Fauntleroy Hub that joined after the meeting started. And Catherine, Catherine was already here. So my topic, I don't have a graphic. It came about because I attended the North Capitol Hill Hub exercise. And part of what they did was they're going to do a full report out ready later, but I had this aha that we needed to just do a best practice kind of catch up for hub captains. They had simulations where they had multiple hubs in their sector sending messages in. And some of the discussion that came out of it was, when you come up on, you've got your hub set up finally, and you're ready to go, a best practice is to get on the GMRS radio and go, I'm active, I'm here, Morgan Junction is now finally up and running. Did I miss anything? And so that way, it's 2 things. Who else is out there? Maybe I'm the only one in my sector. And if I'm the third hub setting up, the other two hubs can tell me what I've missed. Like the city has already sent out these 3 messages. So a best practice is as soon as you're up for operations, get onto GMRS and make yourself known and let people know I'm here, I'm new, what did I miss, and who else is out there. And then at the end, it's the reverse for a best practice. You're shutting down for the night, other people are still operating, have the courtesy to tell them you're leaving. Because otherwise they're, half an hour after you're gone, they're going to be going, Fauntleroy, we hear you had cots, can we get them from you? And nobody's going to answer. So check in, check out, and use GMRS to do that. So just a reminder of a good best practice.
Good tip.
I also have a question on GMRS, I guess. So if we're doing that, would that be a simplex call, and would we using an established channel just to reach hubs that are within hearing range, or would we be telling that to a net operator?
It'd be
scenario?
broadcasting to the sector, how we sort of roughly have the sectors kind of, I know if I'm in the Southwest sector, I'm using channel 1. So the pre-assigned, pre-designated, supposedly for your sector, and then that way you can get on. And if you're not hearing anything on the repeater and the repeater's not clicking, then I would switch to simplex and see maybe the repeater went down.
Yeah. All right.
So that
Thanks,
answers
Matt.
Norma, you just sort of have to know which of those repeaters, and it should be on your cheat sheet, which one you would typically, that cheat sheet you would typically come up on.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be a good idea to plan to have somebody who's keeping track of which hubs are online and offline, maybe somebody who has a home station.
Yes, I mean, we have in past years, Southwest has been the only sector that ever practiced with a net control. And that's because Ron had the vision and we had the manpower out here with the radio club to actually do that. The other sectors had not had a chance to practice that with a net in their GMRS sectors. And Capitol Hill had the aha of why you want to do that, why you want to have a person helping facilitate the voice traffic for your GMRS sector. So that's a future clinic training thing to come up. So good point, Matt.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Let's
Frank
move
had his hand up.
on. I'm sorry, Ann, did you say someone had a question?
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Central West did that on some of our things. We'd have our Central West net control set up next to the ACS net control over a number of years. And we realized we needed to have a dedicated Central West net control GMRS radio operator duty station next to the ham. So that was essential to get in and out. So thank you.
All right, Ann, I have you for a unification update.
Yep, super fast. So we have if you don't know, we have a group of folks getting together to figure out reunification. The process that Cindy and a team put together is called I Am Safe, and that process is to get a message from the impacted area out to your out of area contact, either by phone or text or email or whatever, through ham radio, letting them know that you are okay here in the impacted area. That's called I Am Safe. Reunification is the process of trying to help folks find out that their loved ones within the impacted area are okay. So it's me in Seattle, me in Victory Heights, my husband in Beacon Hill. It's letting those folks know, letting each other know that we're okay. Not necessarily physically helping you reunite, but at least putting your mind at ease that yes, your loved one checked in with their closest hub. We have documentation of that visit. They are alive. And here you go. Here's the information. So now you can at least put your mind at ease that nobody, perished in the quake or whatever. And you can go about the business of trying to physically reunite. So it's a group of folks that are working on it. It's very ham radio heavy. We're talking about how can we create a smart database so that when the city is ready for it, we can dump our information into their system. The city, and Cindy mentioned Jill Watson earlier, she's in charge of this process. One of the interesting things is that what's the event coming up? It's not Major League Baseball, it's Olympics.
FIFA or World Cup, soccer
World Cup. Yeah, something or other is coming, and it's a ways out. It's like a year and a half, 2 years out, something like that. Anyway, so she is working on developing a reunification plan around that specific event. We are hoping that the hubs can somehow be involved, at least see how they're planning on doing it, and seeing if maybe we can, I don't know, learn from one another. We really want to build this smartly so that it rolls seamlessly into their program. The city doesn't really have a robust program yet. So we're both at the beginning. So anyway, that's it. One of these days I'll get a hold of Jill and we'll actually meet face to face with her and tell her more about what we're trying to do.
So
Sarah's got her hand up.
To clarify, that means then that if you're separated from family members and they go to a hub wherever they are and get their names into the hub, your mind will not be put to ease until that information is dumped into the city system.
No, we are building a system so that if both parties separate go to hubs, they might be able to find out that the other person's alive and okay.
Okay.
So we're not gathering data just to put it into the city's database. We are gathering data to reassure as much as we can, but also knowing what little impact we have. There's only so many of us. Can we feed our information, just like Cindy was talking about, feeding our information from a shelter into a more official shelter? Can we take our reunification data and feed it into a more robust, encompassing reunification database? So we are trying to help. We just don't know exactly how to do that. And there's the whole issue of how much manpower are we really going to have for this kind of endeavor when we're trying to make sure people have food and water and shelter. So, any other questions? Okay.
Thanks, Ann. Next item is HubCap email. Cindy?
Well, it's good news, bad news. First is not really email, but the good news is thanks to James Williams, who's kind of our newish hub webmaster, and Matt Blank, who is the technical supreme genius of the world, as far as I'm concerned, in this web stuff. We now are an official HTTPS website, right? Because people would go, I got a suspicious web ahead, do I really want to go? And it's really important because when we got our URL, HTTPS hadn't even been invented, and we just been too lazy to make the change because I didn't know how to do it, but those guys did. So that got done like yesterday. So
good job.
Yep. So the bad news coming off of that is, as you all know, the email system sucks. It's just been awful. And it's tied to how we set up the website, help drive the communications. We got a free email account with them, and it's just degraded over time. It may get better because we got the HTTPS now, but I'm not sure. I think Matt really thinks it's related to our host. So
that certificate isn't affected. I think that there is a simpler path to solve it. I don't think that we necessarily need to move off of Site 5. We can make some significant improvements without changing it.
So what I need is a small team of technical people to work that. That's part one. And then part two is the reason I don't want to be involved, other than to go, here's some lessons learned from having to do all this email for years. Somebody needs to help manage it. Somebody's just got to be able to go, oh, we got a new HubCap, add it to it. Oh, we've got a problem, and do the troubleshooting. So I know Matt has said he would help. and I said, I will form the team. So this is the call for please help us get out of this. And we'll help define the user requirements. The key one is everybody seems to go immediately to, let's use Constant Comment or MailChimp, but that's a one-way email. You cannot talk to each other. And so that is, you know, it has its pros and cons. And the big con would be there's going to be one person, you know, being the master of all communications then. And then
Yeah,
the
and we
others
already use MailChimp, right, for the global list
for the global
announcements.
list. And so,
Yeah.
yes, we could do that, but that means nobody could talk to anybody. They have to send it to the person who is authorized to send out a MailChimp email. And so that is a solution, and that may be what you guys decide. And then the other one is Google Groups or some of these other things, but you know,
Or
some of these-
groups.io is one that I also like. I think that we're going to be over the limit for the free tier though.
Okay, so Matt's really all over the solutions, right? I need people to work with them and not make solutions that make it worse. Because I can tell you that when our radio club in West Seattle went to Google Groups, we lost half the people because they didn't understand Google Groups. And they didn't want to go get a Gmail account for their 12th, you know, club that they had to join. So it has to be a thoughtful decision. Is there anybody out there who would like to take that challenge? Because if not, I'm just going to turn it over to Matt and say, you do it, but somebody's going to have to run it after he's done. Okay, we're in trouble. So Matt,
Well, yeah,
it's all
I don't want to be on
yours.
the hook for managing all of the additions and subtractions forever, but
Well, no, I think what
I'll
it
do what I
is,
can.
I think what it is since nobody else wants to help on the solution, and I realize we only got about a quarter of the hub captains here right now. I'll put this out in the minutes. Gabrielle, I want to put a thing on there saying, need some technical people to work with Matt, because it's always better to have someone to bounce ideas against. And then we will line up the, who will do the managing, the admin side of it for our retreat discussion, because we have multiple of these sort of questions of, you know, just like Gabrielle and Gina have taken over the running of the meetings, you know, the distribution of small tasks to multiple people is what's going to keep this going. Should I, you know, I've seen this in organizations, somebody drops dead of a heart attack and the organization can't keep going because nobody knows how to do it. So I'm trying to avoid that situation. so Matt,
I would not
go
put
for
myself
it.
in that position
Yeah,
of
yeah,
being
yeah.
the only one with the keys. No.
No, but until the retreat happens in February, March, and we'll talk about that. So I'm authorizing you, go put together some prospectus, you know, and if you think that we can just fix it with the
Okay.
current one, go, you know, that'd be great, because I know I can continue to manage it that way until a transition. Okay, this is your forewarning when we get down to the captain's retreat. Think about these things. So thanks, Gabrielle.
Thanks, Cindy. Fundraising overview, Anne?
Again, a real quick one. So a couple of hub captains raised their hand and said, we need information on how to raise money. We for those of you that are newer, we did a GoFundMe drive for the network, and we got about $5,000 or something like that. So GoFundMe seemed like a really easy way to do it, and it's not hard. But I and a couple other hub captains volunteered to look at different fundraising opportunities, fundraising platforms, and what came out of that discussion was more. What that morphed into, and I'm just kind of copying to this now, is that it morphed into needing a website. Unless you're standing on the corner with a device where they can swipe their card, how do they, you have to have a bank account, and you have to have, there's things you have to have in order for a fundraiser to work. So I got a little diverted with helping folks create websites, web pages, and honestly very few people have taken me up on it. I think we've gotten 2. So I will bring back the fundraising, what we gathered, you know, the difference between GoFundMe and Venmo, and just there's a bazillion different things. If folks want that, We did go through, I think it was a deep dive, I'm not sure, but we went through how to open up a checking account for not a non-for-profit, because that's not what we are, but for a community organization. So gave you guidance for a checking account for your organization, your hub organization, so they can write a check to the hub and not to you as an individual. Happy to send that out if anybody needs it. It wasn't that long ago. So that's a piece of it, having a checking account where the money can go. And the other piece is having a website where you can flop that donate here button. So can I just see a raise of hands of who wants to hear about fundraising? Who still has that desire? Okay, I see Jim's hand. Okay, Norma's shaking. Okay, we'll bring it back. Cindy and I will talk. Maybe it's I just put out a call to anybody that's interested, and you can pay attention at a separate meeting instead of boring all of you guys with that if that's not your issue. You know, money is nice, but if your box is jam-packed full of stuff, you know, the only other thing to spend it on is you know, copies. So that's all I have on fundraising. More to come.
Thanks, Ann. And that's the kind of issue that maybe it needs to come up every year or so, because groups' needs are going to change. So
right.
Other things. So yeah.
That's-
All right. Thanks. Next is neighborhood maps.
Yeah.
Ann?
All right. Another slideshow, because I love these. So wrote a grant back in June, July. I can't remember when exactly. It was called Tools That Support and Inform. What we did was we used everybody's hours prepping for and attending the power down drill that we did June 11th. So we used those hours to pay for 62 neighborhood maps. 62 hubs got neighborhood maps. We also got 100 printed and laminated medication self-help posters. So if you haven't gotten that, you should be getting it very soon. We don't just have the 5 now, we have 6 self-help posters to hang up in your education area. And I will be reaching out to those that owe me money for second maps. The grant paid for 1 map for whoever wanted it. And then if you wanted a second or a third map, you had to pay for it yourself at $42 a pop. So I will be reaching out to you individually if you ask for a map, and then ways to send me your money. That's it on that one.
Great. Thank you. Cindy, new earthquake study in the Seattle Times.
And I'm going to add back into what Ann just said. We've got the medications posters and those maps to distribute. I've got the south of the Ship Canal set. Ann's got the north of the Ship Canal. I'm having a hard time finding my personal time to, run these around to everybody. So I'm bringing to the garage sale. So we will have a distribution table there, so that even if you don't want anything from the garage sale, you can come pick up your maps. And it's not about the garage sale, it's about the social ability. So, that's a good excuse to drag everybody there. Even though I want everything to be gone. I want nothing to come back home with me. So multiple things just cropped up today. It's been just crazy. Yesterday on Cairo, I saw a story about the 2 faults may be triggering each other, and we may end up in the future having two big earthquakes instead of just one. And then several people have sent me the link to the Seattle Times. Didn't even have a chance to get it out to folks. So we will get the PDF version out to people in an email, because if you don't buy the Times, you can't read all the stories. Very interesting. The Office of Emergency Management had a disaster management committee this morning. They were covering Hazard Explorer, which is the tool they use to show those faults and building damage. And that was new to them too. They had just seen the article. And so they couldn't comment too much on it, other than to say, as they discover more about that science, they can incorporate those scenarios into the Hazard Explorer. And so in the agenda, which you should have all the email with it, if you click onto the agenda now, I think it should take you to the link where we've been adding all these things in. Okay, Anne's put the article in there. The Hazard Explorer has changed. If you go to the Office of Emergency Management website and you click on Hazard Explorer, it will take you to a page that says this one's out of date, and it'll go to a new one. Do take a few minutes to look at it. It's kind of a very busy platform, and you have to know something about maps online to deal with it. But their old platform was no longer being supported, so they had to shift. So they added a whole bunch of new information, and so get in there and play around. Maybe in a meeting where we've got time, we can go back to it. We did it as some kind of a deep dive in the past, so we can add that into a thing. All these things that we keep saying that, we covered this 4 years ago, and new hub captains are going like, I wasn't here. This is not, this is not fair. Anne and I have been talking about how to do onboarding better of new hub captains, and to, how to fire hose them with all this stuff, or how do we put on a regular cycle to come back and talk certain topics so that nobody's really left behind for too long. In a year, you might see all the important topics. So those two things I wanted to make sure people were aware of, because that's generally what the hub captain's like, is getting that kind of new study, that new information, knowing new tools that you can share with your communities. Any questions on that? Okay. My next one, I'm just going to move on there, Gabrielle. My next one is,
Great.
boom, I thought the summer was over and I got to relax for a little bit. Man, not a chance. Gabrielle, can you bring up the agenda on can you share your screen and bring up the agenda, and we can I can show you guys on this where we're at. This is,
yes, I just see a short blurb there, but let me do that, Cindy. Hang on.
on the on the agenda, I've listed several new things that we hadn't, some had come out. So scroll down to the announcements. There we go.
Hang on, let me make it a little bigger here, see if that helps. All right, what one are you looking for?
Well, the first one I wanted to talk about is the Pharmacy Summit, third bullet down. That is your chance to be a fly on the wall. It's kind of all day, and maybe you'll look at, if you register, you can look at the agenda and go, I'm really going to only go to this part where the national chains are talking about their issues with supply chain. I look at these sort of things as like, you get the straight scoop this way, and so if you have any interest or any opportunity, try and go. Anne and I, of course, are planning on attending, and we'll try and give you, notes coming out of it. Our whole point is that people are talking about this, and actually maybe something good will come out of it, like they'll fix some of their supply chain problems. So I don't need to know who's going to go, just register and go, and the more of you, the better. The next one that I need to talk about is the fire department fire exercise. So I just got confirmation that we will be allowed this year. Last year, Matt and Ann went downtown to see the headquarters version of what their annual earthquake windshield exercise look like. And that's where they put guys in fire trucks and they send them out on a windshield route, which is a predetermined route along arterials, looking at critical infrastructure and calling in, just like we do, scenarios. The school is on fire. This has collapsed. And they have to do those reports. And in the battalion headquarters, which are these two places, the University District and Washington, you're watching their incident commander and their staff hearing this stuff come in over the radio, writing it down. You see how they post it. You see how they do triage, which is, the fire trumps the broken legs, and how they organize and are going to make decisions about how to respond in the neighborhoods. It was fascinating. I got to do this a couple of years ago, and then during COVID we had to stop. So they are letting us in again. There's only going to be like I kind of told them 3, but I think I can sneak 4 in if you guys are really well behaved. So if anybody wants to go to either of these, please send me an email and I will figure out some way to make it work, and tell me which one you're going to go to. And if you can't, if you could go to both of them, tell me that, like, hey, if everybody wants to go to University District and there's too few people in West Seattle, I can move you west if you're willing to go the next day. I do not have the exact time, but I'm pretty sure you would be there at 9 or 9:30 to sort of get the pre-briefing, and the exercise starts at 10. I'm almost positive that's what it was last year. And then they're done by 12. So it's kind of a big honor that we got invited to this. So how many are you kind of interested? I can't see all of you, but
Norma is.
okay, good. I mean, at least a couple. I mean, I just don't want us to not have anybody there after we go to all this trouble. So Matt, you're interested? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think
super
Bill
cool.
Fay, too.
And then
And I
will
would do U District. That's super close to me.
Yeah. And I'll make sure the hub captains who are not here and, not going to look at the video for weeks, we'll put this out in email saying what I just said, but I really wanted to emphasize, get your names into me so I can figure this out. The next one I need to talk about is,
Was that the first one for Broadview, Cindy?
no, I'm trying to get to
Okay.
the big ones first. Geez, you
Okay.
can't believe this. Okay, I didn't put this in yet because I don't have any more information. Some of the hub captains who were around 4 or 5 years ago will remember this. Frank, I think you were there. We were contacted by the World Affairs Council, and they are a group of international, multiple countries, and they group together and they tour different cities and they look at emergency management. They have an emergency management focus. And Seattle is one of the cities that they come to. So they go spend a day with the office, Seattle Office of Emergency Management. They go spend part of a day with King County. And they called us and said, we want to hear how you guys work in community. How do you organize? What do you do? This year, their focus and what they want to kind of put their discussion around is inclusive engagement with your communities, which we've all been, coming up on how to do that. And so it's really kind of like 28 of them and some number of us. There's no limit, but I think last time we had 10 or 12, and you just get to answer questions. I mean, so I haven't talked to the organizer well enough to say, do you want us to each one talk about what we do at our hub, or do you have a series of questions you want to give us in advance? It was a lot of fun last time. We didn't know what we were doing, and it was really just like, one of us started off with a 5-minute refresher about what the hubs, they get all this in advance, and then we just had a discussion. And it was also super interesting because, I mean, they came from Nambia. There was probably about 8 of them from African countries, 8 of them from European countries, and a couple from South America. So we learned a little bit about what they wanted to do. So anybody who's interested in that, as soon as I get the information, I'll send it out. They haven't figured out the date. It's somewhere between October 31st and November 2nd, and it's going to be downtown at the Office of Emergency Management, because what they'll do is they'll talk to the OEM in the morning, and then we get the afternoon session. So sorry that it keeps ending up on work days, but if you're really interested in kind of international and inclusive stuff, go for it. Matt is putting pictures in of the fire department exercise, and please don't forward because internal pictures need to stay internal. He's sharing them with us. So stay tuned on that. But I wanted to give anybody time to ask questions, because once I send the email out, it's harder to ask your questions. And what you might ask now is what I want to make sure I cover. And I can't see everybody here. So questions? Okay.
I'm not seeing any hand raised.
Okay. No, that's super cool. That's good. And then all the other stuff that's on this agenda is, kind of more typical things. I do want to call out for Pat Mork that she's got an outreach coming up that's the very top one. Yeah, Broadview. She ended up light on staff because people change plans on her. They're doing the bite of Broadview. So if you like getting food as part of your outreach activities, she could use some help. So contact Pat directly, Pat Mork. And I think she might have dropped off. She was going to go to a parks meeting. And then Matt, what I was trying to ask you when you had your microphone problems, do you have somebody helping you yet on October 4th?
Yeah, I think Frank is going to join on the 4th.
Okay, super. So
Yeah,
we got that
Really
covered.
appreciate that.
And then I'll let some of the, oh, and the other larger one is the zombie run. And that is for you guys to come have fun, right? I can't wait to see this, because if it's something that I can adapt for an outreach thing for my neighborhood, I'm really interested. So apparently you can come be a zombie and chase people. I have no idea how this is going to work. So it sounds like a kick. And
It's going to be big, I think.
yeah, it is going to be big.
There are yard signs at like Roosevelt, like rail station. So
oh wow,
they're really getting the word out.
Oh, very cool. So that'll be fun. I'll be at the table because I just want to be there for the day and see it. The table will be inside, so you don't, if it's raining, you don't have to be outside.
Is there a date for that, Cindy? I don't see one here.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the 21st, and it's also
October 21st.
Yeah, and 22nd, but I'm only going to table on the 21st.
Yeah, and you signed up through Eventbrite if you want to go. I think they want people.
Yeah,
to do
thought I sent this. That's probably one of the emails you did.
You did. You sent it out. I remember that. Yeah.
But when we send the agenda stuff out, I'll get back in there and fix it with the dates on it. I think I must have cut it out. And then the garage sale. So I keep saying garage sale because that's the easy way. You don't have to pay anything. This is going to be like you'll get tickets, and that'll allow you to lottery draw, and you will get stuff. And I'll try and send out kind of a list of stuff, but it's coming down into 3 categories. True hub gear, which, I have lanterns and I have some stuff like that. Training and meeting materials. I got name tags coming out my ears, tons of stuff. And then publicity and outreach. Like I have plastic containers that you can put up in shops to put your flyers in. It is just unbelievable. I got 18 boxes so far. I still don't have everything located yet. And so bring food, bring yourself, come enjoy. It'll be in the church, so we're not in any rush. It'll be great.
I'm going to add my stuff to Cindy's pile too. I have
Pat
my own.
Pat Mork handed me 4 binders and said, "Here you go." And I went, "Oh, good. I'll put them in the 5 boxes of binders that I've already got."
Yeah.
Oh, can I bring some stuff too? This is a whole hubs.
Yeah,
fun thing.
Yeah, I don't know why not. Kind of make it a big massive exchange.
Swap meet.
Yeah.
Swap meet.
Okay, swap meet. It's just, but you're bringing in it and you're giving it away is the thing.
You're taking it home if it doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Bring a table for yourself, Matt. You're going to start the swap meet thing. Everybody will bring a table.
The church will have a ton of tables. It's just
Okay.
like, I'll put a couple of them where people can dump stuff. Literally, I am not kidding. If it doesn't go away from my house at the end of this thing, I am taking it to the dump on my way home. So that's how serious I am about. I've had this stuff in my house for 15 years. And if I haven't used it in 15 years.
Go.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to run back up to the top of this page, check the agenda, see if we've missed anything here. Cindy, you were giving us an update. You talked about the pharmacy, the World Affairs Council. Looks like there's a couple more events there you want to talk about.
Yeah.
SDCI and then Filipino Cultural Center.
Yeah, literally, and that one came 10 minutes before this meeting. Typically, Ron Angeles and the Rainier Beach Hub have covered. Seattle Department of Construction and Inspection has a big fair, and it's really around people getting permits. But one of the things they include is earthquake retrofit, and so they've invited us to have a table there on earthquake preparedness. So I'll be talking to Ron on Monday. But if anybody's interested or can table on the 21st, let me know. it's really just a generalized hub table and, pretty easy to do, and you're inside. So, and then Ann and I'll talk to Hub Captain Retreat. I think that was all of them. And I just saw chat go by.
Eric had to go, I think.
Okay.
Erica.
Okay, so it looks like that's the bulk of the announcements right there. Do we want to go to the HubCap retreat now, and then we'll do around the room announcements after?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ann and Cindy, back to you two again.
So we're on our second 2-year cycle, right? We had a virtual retreat coming out of COVID, and it was where we talk about, what is it we're going to focus on? And we were all kind of in the mindset of, oh my God, we haven't done hub stuff for a year and a half. So, we made our small plans, and that's where we decide we're going to do an annual drill, or we're going to do, these things. So we're gearing up for that. I have 4 dates in there. Whoops, 1, 2, 3 dates in there to look at. When we put this list together, Ann and I go through holidays, we go through things when the auxiliary communication team is doing stuff, because so many of our hub captains do those. We look for, personal commitments that we've got that we can't do. And we also have to look at what rooms do we think we can get. So if we're going to do the retreat at like where we're doing the swap meet, that's a church, that's Saturdays only. If we try and do it at the university branch library, for example, we could do it on a Sunday. It's a pro-con thing. I definitely know of some hub captains who can't come on Saturdays. So we're trying to figure out what to do. So is there anybody on the line who can look at those 3 dates and go, bad choice? Something we don't know, like that Super Bowl day. I don't think I looked at the Super Bowl or anything like that. Would those work for most people? And we don't want to get too much later in the year, because then we cut ourselves too short on planning. Okay. So
Well, I don't know about sports.
yeah, I know. I have to actually go look that up. Could Sunday work? Can people give me kind of a thumbs up if you're open to a Sunday? Yeah, because if you can't do a Saturday, then I have to go, which hub captain, Okay, if Sunday's good, then I am probably going to talk with Gina and make sure that 2 or 3 that I know that need to do Sundays, because she has commitments on Saturday. She just can't do Sunday, hub captain. And we may switch it to a Sunday in like the university library. That seemed to be a pretty good location, as long as it's not a home
Husky game.
Yeah, I think we're past they're done by
Past the games.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right. Thank you guys. And so that's going to be highly participative this time. And the other really cool thing about that, I see Sunday afternoon. Yeah, not Sunday morning, because we know a lot of people have church obligations and stuff. Ann and I are working with a person who has been involved with the hubs before, just because of her University of Washington affiliation. She's the one who did the camping hacks, Katie Izerod. And she's a professor who helps with community engagement. And she's helping us write a survey for you guys so that it helps us guide the discussion in the retreat about what you think is important and what tools you'd like to have and what focus would help you the most. So we come in with some background material of where you guys are at, because you're 10 years experience to 3.5 months of experience, and trying to find something that works for most people. It's going to be really important, because these next 2 years are good growing years, good strong years for us. So
Cindy, can I make one observation related to dates? You have 3 sets of dates here. I'm assuming those are Saturday dates. So Sunday dates would be the day after those dates.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Just so if anybody sees that, they know. It's pretty clear, but
well,
okay.
What I'll probably do is now try to go get a room, which is you almost, you can't do. In case you didn't know, the library's just expanded their, you also only be able to reserve 30 days in advance. Well, we complained, and they now make it 60 days in advance. So
Let's be clear. Cindy complained and got this done.
like
So
over and
strong
over and
work,
over.
Cindy.
So 60 days before those dates, we'll know if we're locked in or not. So
So
okay,
you have to get
Benefit
in
for the
there right at
community.
the day after Christmas. You have to get in there.
but that's
Cindy,
okay. You know, if you
schedule.
know, if you're ready to do it, you're ready to do it. So okay, that is it. Good. We got 45 minutes for around the room. Good.
All right, so I'm going to stop my screen share here and we'll do our around the room. We usually start up in the Northwest. So does anyone have announcements that they want to share? Starting in the Northwest?
Yeah, Finney Hub, we had a drill this month on the 9th. And Finney has gone through incredible growth over the summer. From one person to about 6 to 8, very motivated, invested. It's quite a team. For the drill, we didn't have many participants, but that was fine. We had people just cycling through scenarios. But it really gave the team, none of which knew anything about the hub, a hub. It was a on-the-job learning experience. And the best part of it is everybody had ideas for how we could do things better. So it really went well. Oh, and also I experimented with the Coroplast board. This is what North Cap Hill Hub is using. And I got the information from Susie Hammond. Coroplast is like corrugated cardboard, but it's made of plastic. So you can write on it. They were experimenting with using Sharpie, but then being able to clean it off with alcohol. But that doesn't work so well. For our drill, I used wet erase marker, which works great unless it rains. So at a minimum, we would use wet erase markers for our drills so that we're not smearing the boards with Sharpie and then Sharpie for the real thing.
Which reminded me when I found the roll of kind of thick but not too thin plastic, that's what I got it for, was to put over the whiteboard so that your writing didn't run off. So somebody's going to win a roll of film.
Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, I was thinking that, we have all this incredibly valuable information and suddenly it starts sprinkling and you get this slow drool of marker. But if we could just bring down a flap to protect them.
Nice. Jim, I bought a set of grease pencils. If you can bring a piece of that chloroplast, what it's called? Chloroplast. I would like to try grease pencil on there and see how that works.
Yeah, I forgot you mentioned that at the North Cap Hill drill, about experimenting with that.
Yeah.
Bring it to the swap meet.
That's what I'm thinking.
Thanks, Jim. Is there anyone else from Northwest? Okay, let's move over to Northeast. Louise, do you have anything to share? Nothing right now? Okay, great. Norma?
Victory.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ann, go ahead.
Go ahead. Victory, I was just going to say Victory Heights, nothing's going on.
Okay. Norma?
Yeah, so Wedgwood, we have scheduled a Hub 101 in the image of the Madison Park tabletop drill without the food and wine. Sorry, the high precedent to set. We will aim for that. I think it really was wonderful, right? The community building aspect. So we will do it in our own way with Cindy. Thank you so much for facilitating. It will be October 24th, 7 to 8:30. It's not official because I'm just waiting for our person to reserve the church to get back to me, who's reserving the church. So I'm like waiting and waiting. All the promotional stuff is ready to go, Cindy and everyone, and I'll push it out, and everyone's invited. I really love the Madison Park experience of having other hub captains there and experienced folks. I would love to have that be true for ours. And I'm trying to make it a little fun. I'm hoping that we can borrow the Wheel of Misfortune, and then I have some emergency buckets to raffle off with some things inside. Or so if anyone has ideas for, adding a little levity, as much as appropriate for a serious, topic. But okay, October 24th, we'd love to see you. It'll be in Wedgwood, hopefully at a church, 7 to 8:30. Thank you.
Right. Matt?
Yeah, I haven't got too much going on with my hub. We did have a pretty good turnout for our joint skills fair event with us and the South Ravenna Park Hub. Yeah, I think that went really well.
Yeah. I think it
What's
went
the
really
other
well.
group
You guys did a
called?
great job.
South Ravenna Park? Is that what they're called now?
Or Ravenna Park South. I'm not sure what we landed on.
Something like
It's
that. Okay.
called
I think
Ravenna
they're
Park.
just Ravenna Park.
Yeah, but
Did
just
you get a good
clarifying they're
crowd for
south of
that?
me.
Got a good crowd for that, Matt? Yeah.
I think we did. Yeah, people really started turning up just about an hour before we were planning to close, and we stayed open a little bit late, I think.
Great.
I have a hub report for Lake City. So
Okay.
they're also doing a reboot with, Sandy having to step back. And so, Anne, you forgot to tell, whenever their date is, we're going to try a urban survival skills fair standing room thing, right? Because it's bad weather now. So Anne's going to bring like 4 or 5 of the tables and demo. You know how we do when we do a skills fair, she walks you around and goes, here's the points and here's what you do. Well, she's just going to do that for the audience. Then she'll switch over to another table which has another skill fair topic and do that while the first table is being changed to the next topic, and then go back and forth. And so people could just sit there and enjoy the skill fair journey, and then do a limited number of them, not all 15, and then that gives you 3 meetings worth of training. And it doesn't require a ton of staff, So we'll give a report out on how that works.
That sounds great. Do you have a date for that or not yet?
Oh,
Still figuring it out.
Tuesday, October 17th.
There we go.
There we go. Details in the chat.
Okay, that's a busy night. I don't know why. I've already got a couple other things booked on that night. All right, I was calling it an open house for my Windermere North Sandpoint hub on September 16th in the morning. I didn't have a big crowd, but I got multiple people that I didn't know and had never seen before. So I considered that a win, even though it wasn't a lot of people. It wasn't just people I already knew that were stopping by. I didn't do a lot of scenarios. I kind of made it like Anne had done in August, a walk and talk, just walk people around the way we had one tent set up and each side demoed a table for a different hub function, education, volunteer. I'm not sure what the other 2 were, info and then resources. And so as you walked around each side, you could show them what that went. And I got some great volunteers. Thank you to Matt and Anne and some other people who came and volunteered, and Norma from the area hubs, and that was really great. So I appreciated people coming by. And I was thinking of setting up a date to do a Hub 101. So if you wanted to connect Norma, I could butt in on your event, but if not, no problem. So maybe we can connect offline on that, because Anne was pushing me to set up another event. So I'd be happy to work with somebody on that.
The more people that show up at these Hub 101s, the better it is, because even, while it's primarily to train hers, if you have two tables going, then people get to see different experiences, and the hub captains are really helpful at being actors, because then you don't have to direct traffic. You can just be the actor and give subtle hints about what they might want to do with you.
Yeah. So something to consider. We can connect on that. Great. I think I hit everybody in Northeast. So let's move on to Central West.
Okay, I'll start and then I'll hand it up to Frank. A week ago, I did some outreach. The Queen Anne Community Council had grabbed the community tent at the farmer's market. That was a week ago. And I tag along. And so I had some of my brochures and backpacks and stand there for a couple hours and talk up emergency prep and outreach along with the community council as it's trying to promote itself. That's about it for the Queen Anne Hub. But Frank and I and some other people have been doing some work with Perkins Lane. So Frank?
Yeah, some 4 people from Perkins Lane came up at our summer fest, and we've had contact them before. And it's in a slide zone on the vulnerability map, the whole freaking thing. So they said, how can we be in touch with each other? We don't want to be hams. We don't want licenses. We don't want to have to program radios. We just want to talk with each other. So Bill and I and Pam Portnice got together. And Bill and I took about 3 hours to run a test with the Redibus RT22s up there. And we identified 10 spots along the way that by linkage you could go. I just went out until I couldn't hear him. We stopped, we marked it, we went on. So there's about 10 spots there. The other thing that Pam's researching, and I dropped a note to Ron Zuber, these folks want, what my perception is, an off-the-shelf family radio service only radio that they don't have to program, they don't have to have any kind of technical thing other than put 3 AAA batteries in the back and they can function. And what occurred to me is this looks at the red and blue level of the pyramid. In other words, if you have people who do not want to go to the green, they don't want the tech, et cetera, how do they stay in touch? The way that road is laid out, if anybody's driven it, it's very hilly. The whole thing is downhill. So one of the ladies, and I got to respond to her, she said, how many people should we have on the radios here? And my reaction, using the map that we got from Kroll, my reaction is everybody who's on the road. Everybody. Because that way, if something happens, your neighbor on either side of you, they're out of the picture, then you jump to the people on either side of them, north and south or whatever, to see if they're involved. So it started out as a simple little thing, as Bill and I know, and God knows where it's going to go. But what we're thinking is, if we design this, and we'll get it back to you, the rest of you folks, for an overview when we're done. This is something you could add on to a hub presentation. Just how does a family service radio work? What does it cost? And why is it important? So there's all kinds of stuff in there, and it's a technology, and I think Bill would agree, the people we ran into are very interested in participating, but they just don't have the time or interest to do the tech work. So anyway.
Well, I would say, Frank, I'm just going to say, I love those people, but they know they live in a horrible landslide. We get to see every 2 years, which house came down. Do not kill yourselves and waste all your valuable hub energy on a project that they would like somebody else to do for them.
Well, I appreciate your point on that, but I think there are 2 hams down there now, registered hams we know of. So the thing is, if we can get them interested enough that they would interact with those hams who could either hit the West Seattle repeater or Bainbridge Island. But I think to take it up a notch is if people look at GMRS and ham and they perceive that as the only radio way they can communicate, if you go over to Madison Valley, and I've biked in that area quite a bit, if you have a hub area there, you can say, hey, how can we be in touch with the hub, say perhaps by family radio service, when something happens? It cuts down a lot of walking time.
Yeah.
And it also gives, yeah,
I agree. If their goal is to be able to communicate with you, but if they're just doing their own little, we just want to talk to each other and make sure we're all okay. have the ham people help them figure it out.
Well, the other piece of this is at
That's-
Magnolia Boulevard West, there are 3 entry points where at the base of the boulevard, if you had a ham radio, you could pick up somebody by simplex, or the family radio service actually has a signal up and down on a couple of them. Bill and I tested that. So it's, I definitely take your point, Cindy. We're not going to beat ourselves to death on it.
Yeah.
But if people can realize they have some agency with radio other than ham or GMRS, give them the tools and let them go play. We're not going to Elmer them on any of this or program the radios, but we'll show you how to get in the game with the radio technology that's off the shelf, easy for you. So that's it.
Thanks, Frank. Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to point out there, interject because nobody's mentioned it, but FRS and GMRS share all of the same channels, and so if their intent is to stay in touch with each other and not be talking to the hub or monitoring the hub, I would also, want to consider MERS, since that is it's also a license-free service. There are a lot of cheap radios available, and it uses an entirely different band. It uses VHF band. So it has separate channels that they can use to stay in touch. Same power level. I think it's 2 watts. And that would, keep them off of our repeater channels. It's not shared with anything except for, I think it overlaps the blue dot and green dot commercial frequencies, but other than that, it would be outside of what we're using.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Ann.
There was one of the hams from Central West. We had a ham gathering, and he suggested that too. So I think, in fairness, Bill and I are at the stage 1, level B of looking at radios. We'll look at GMR, MERS, and family radio service, and see which is preferable. And let people pick what they want. So,
all right,
great, thank you. Central East. Sarah?
Talk about Madison Valley. Madison Valley had a grand opening on the September 9th. I missed it. I think Ann was there. You might be able to make a comment. We're going to do a tabletop drill on the 12th of October. So that's our plan. And we're talking about getting together with the scouts to see if they are going to be would like to be part of this training for disasters.
Great idea. Sarah, you're next.
You've heard we finished Hub 101 with wine and cheese and 8 other hubs showing up, and that was really cool for us to work together. Cindy is working with me right now on 201, which is scarier and more complicated, and so we're excited about that in January, and then we're going to make it really scary and complicated in May. And I've learned so much about what I need to be doing just by getting these scenarios. I got to find where's the dialysis unit closest to me. All sorts of things that I'm going to need that, right? Anyway, one of our volunteers created a hub brochure, and it was damn good. It's like an old-fashioned brochure. It's three things fold together. And she just sent it. She just made it so that you could individualize it for your hub. And it has turned out to be a really important tool. We pass it out at all sorts of events, music in the park, people coming by for art walk. And then we just say to them, we say, here, this is the information about the hub. After the earthquake, come to the park. And we don't say anything more. And they walk away kind of like, oh. But we're trying to get their attention. So that is Cindy now. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, so I just got that folder of stuff. And so, Gabrielle, I will put that, I'll find a place for it on the Google Drive so that everybody has access to it. And then we'll put the link to that in the minutes, one of those added link things. So I haven't figured out where it's going to go yet, probably in outreach, the outreach folder. So called Madison Valley brochure template. And it's, she's got a PDF in there so you can see what it looks like, but it's created in a .pages. And so you have to have a Mac. And so you're going to have to go, use wine to bribe your local Mac owner to modify it, but she put all the words that they use in a text document. So, you know, you guys can play with it to recreate it. It's pretty slick looking. I was trying to find it really super fast, but I can't to share it on the screen.
I would just second what Sarah said. We've modified it for Madison Valley, and I think it's very well worded. It really gives you a good overview of what these hubs are about.
Great, thanks. I think we're down to Southeast. Okay, how about Southwest?
Wait, Southeast. Ron Angeles and the Rainier Beach are doing the Boo Fest. And so Boo Fest is, you know, the big Rainier Beach, you know, kids trick-or-treating all in one place, but there's community information tables. They're the ones who created those little ouch pouches, the Ziploc bag with the Band-Aids. I still have my ouch pouch sitting here. And they had, and they took lessons from Anne on where to go raise money. And so they're going to come back after this and let us know, you know, how it went and how they raised their money as ideas for those of us who want to do something local and are just looking for who can I go quick, you know, knock up for quick $100. So that is one hub activity. The other hub activity going on is there is a new hub developing at the Leo Street Pea Patch, and they're forming a leadership team. So that's pretty cool. That's a very isolated neighborhood, historically Black American, and they feel very disconnected from Seattle. So they're really liking how this talks about building community and part of the programming. And I think that's all.
Great.
Liquid Seward Park lately, so.
Okay, and Southwest would be the last one.
I saw Johnny on. Johnny, do you have anything?
Yeah, actually, yeah, my notifications didn't really work when I set this up, so I showed up very late, but I happened to actually get a notification from the neighborhood house. They're asking about us to set up a table for November 11th and December 1st. November 11th is 11 to 1 p.m. December 1st is towards the afternoon. I think that was the one that you and Ron showed up to last year, I think, Cindy.
The freezing one?
Yes, that one, 4:30 to 6:30. I suspect I'll have the band out again. But yeah, so I think I might be able to show up for both of them. Definitely for the December one. I need to kind of figure out for November 11th, but that looks like the next thing that we're going to be doing over here at High Point, just as kind of an outreach thing. Yeah, so timing, nice.
I'll talk with you afterwards. I'll look at my calendar. And then Chris is, I don't know if she's new, but she's got an event coming up in October also.
We do. We're Cindy has agreed to join me at the table for the Fauntleroy Fall Fest, which it was my first time last year. We had a tremendous, a lot of interest from people. Hundreds of people showed up. We had a great day, and we have ordered that weather again for this year. So we're hoping that we're going to have several hundred people and get our message out. And it was anybody who wants to come down, there's food, music, pumpkins. It's quite fun, actually. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
I just have to say, I think this is the most tabling events I've heard at the end of one of these meetings in a very long time. So everybody should give themselves a hand, because between September, October, November, December, that's a lot of tabling that we just heard about. So I don't remember hearing about that much in quite a while, even pre-COVID. So I think that's really great. Anybody else, did anything jog anybody's memory? Any last things anyone wants to share?
Yep, I'm going to share the screen to do the. Am I sharing?
Yeah.
Yes. That's the brochure.
Is it there? Okay. So that's page 1. And then this is page 2.
Okay.
Wow.
And so this is where you get to personalize, what you do specifically in your area. A lot of it is, pulled from the general brochure, but kind of repackaged. So.
Great.
I guess that reminds me of something. I did find this particular Avery sticker fits like right on the back of this. So I printed
On the hub brochure
those.
we already have. Okay.
Yeah. So like, where's my hub? And I just stuck my hub right there.
That's a great idea. And you put the QR code. Maybe you could
Yeah,
share the
I can
code
share the
on that
template
sticker
number.
if you have the box at some point. That would be great, Matt. Because
Yeah.
that looks like an unusual size.
Yeah, it was just lucky I found it. Yeah. So if that was the Pages document we were talking about, I can try to convert that to something else. I have open source software.
I thought I saw something in there. Oh yeah, you put it in there. Perfect.
All right. Anne, Cindy, do you have anything else?
I just want to give Pat a chance to talk if she's back.
Oh, I'm here. Oops. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Pat?
Well, I just had on my tabling event, I was a little concerned because I have the wheel of misfortune, and I'm afraid I'm going to be tied up with a gazillion kids with that and won't be able to talk to adults. That's why I was asking for if anybody wants to come to this event and, just sit and pass out the other information, that would be good, or spin the wheel or, deal with the kids. That's fine. I really don't have any idea. The weather's going to be nice. I think there could be 500 plus people at this event. So anyway.
Yep. I tried to bribe them with that it's the bite, and those things are pretty dang cool. So.
And do you mind if I give away all those handouts in the suitcase?
No, that's
okay. All right. Well, you said you needed to pass it on quickly to somebody else, so
but I'll just restock it as
yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So. Great meeting, Gabrielle.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It was great to see you all. Our next meeting is a deep dive at the end of October. Okay. And then are we having an earlier hub meeting in November? I didn't see the dates. I think it's usually pre-Thanksgiving and then we skip December. There's some routine we do.
Yep. October 16th, or excuse me, November 16th would be the next Hub Captains meeting.
November 16th is
And that
HubCaps.
Pulls
Okay.
it prior out of the holiday week. So
Right.
should be on the calendar.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, we'll try to put it into the minutes as well.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Nice.
night.
Thank you.
Thanks
Good job,
for joining.
guys.
All right.